Even in this deal right here that we just did with the 800, the property was so, it wasn't strong enough to carry a mortgage by itself. We needed to execute, we needed to refinance another property that was paid off, that we had bought years back, for less than 5 million, that's now worth 25 million. Because it was, mismanaged. The person didn't, had the managers.
Whoa. What?
In the back of your mind, your dreams should be real, right?
Thanks all for tuning in to Dreamcatchers, where we make things happen. Dreamcatchers was formally launched to unlock the hidden potential in successful, self-motivated individuals who desire to take their life's work to the next level but need support to evolve. We are a collective group of professionals with various backgrounds that use our talents to assist those individuals in realizing their wildest dreams by providing education, inspiration, and direction. This podcast is where we share the lessons we've learned along the way to catching our dreams and give you some context around the how and the why to each approach to put you further ahead on the journey to catching your dream. Are you ready?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dreamcatchers Podcast. I'm your host, Jerome, and I got my new best friend, the main man from just outside of Philly. Last summer, they closed $50 million deal. Him and his partner, 800 doors, Mr. Sharma. How are you, my friend?
Man, I'm good. Got a little bit of head cold, but I'm here rocking it.
And I appreciate you fighting through
I want to say happy Martin Luther King's birthday, man. I was just thinking about today, the words free at last, free at last.
Yeah.
Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. And that those words to me are more than just civil rights, like it's just the freedom to be, do, and have. And most importantly, the freedom to just be yourself. I'm still working on that.
You're not working on that. I mean, all of our conversations, you've probably come across as one of the most genuine people I've ever met. So, you reached out from LinkedIn, and we've been rocking ever since the first day we talked. I saw a comment, you dropped some fires in the comments on me. I was like, who's this guy? Then I started doing my research, and I was like, how has he been hiding? He's been flying under the radar. Like, nobody does a deal that big.
I think that's also, we connected on the thing freedom. You had posted some video about freedom, and I gave my little freedom rap I dropped a few lines of my freedom rap, Freedom isn't free. It's what the few choose to be.
So, I mean, you've told me a lot about your journey over the past month and a half. And I want to give the listeners a peek behind the curtain on how does a deal like that come together? I know you walked away from it a couple of times and then you came back to it. So give the listeners a little bit about your background, and let's talk about the deal a little bit and then talk about where you're going, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So my background is I've done a lot of different things, but when I was 10 years old, my father bought his first apartment complex. He bought a 54 unit. He got owner financing on it. And then he, eventually bought another unit and another unit. And later on, and I was just in the business at an early age, painting apartments, cutting the grass, doing all the heavy lifting that, didn't know what I was doing. And then later on, became like a property manager at different properties that we acquired as I got older. And a big part of me, like one just was looking for a way out, try to do anything but the apartment business, But then I just finally settled in. Over 20 years ago, I settled into it. And at some point, there was a shift between being a worker and an employee and being a property manager to being an owner, operator, and investor. And that's when I found my niche. I found my thing, whatever you want to call it.
So why would you run away from the family business? Why did you want to do something else?
Because growing up, all I saw was the headaches. I saw how we were able to scale up, and become more comfortable. Because when I was born, or not when I was born, but early childhood, like when I was in second or third grade, we all lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. We didn't come from much. And not even a 1-bedroom apartment, a 1-room apartment.
A studio.
So like just a 1-room apartment. There was no bedroom. The room had the bed in it. And there was a separate bathroom. That was about it. Everything else, the kitchen, everything, you could see the kitchen and everything from the bed. So yeah, it would be a studio or efficiency, I guess you'd call it.
And so you were born in India and then you guys came over, or were you born here in the States?
I was born in India and I came here at a very young age of 2 years old.
Okay. And then your dad, you were telling me about your dad and how he lied about his education so he could get a job in the factory.
Well, yeah, at one point he had to you couldn't come into get a factory job and say you're an engineer because he had engineer training. So he had to say I was a high school graduate. So they give you a job because they're not going to give a job. And it was working, minimum wage. Minimum wage was, I think, $1 something back then. But
and
he
it was
came
a
here
family
he came from humble beginnings, and then he started with a business. A 7-Eleven was the first business somebody talked him into when he got laid off as an engineer. And he just went from one business to the other. When he first, he went to go visit a friend who was living in a triplex, and he explained to him that, these guys are paying my rent. And that's when the light bulb went on. And that's when he started thinking, about and got into things. But me growing up, I was seeing like all the headaches and all the stuff and carrying the bucket, carrying the tools, and, so as we grew up, as things got greater, it got later. It got greater later, basically,
So
And
it's not get rich quick at all, then.
Huh?
It's not get rich quick.
Heck no, not at all. It's a long-term play here. And I'm really seeing a whole lot of mania now with apartments. Because I haven't been online. I haven't talked to anybody. I just started doing podcasts, and I'm looking at the mania about apartments going on right now. And I'm just like, wow, what the heck is going on? Because I grew up, we were in the business, and we were almost like foreigners. Like, no apartments. What are you doing? Now everybody like apartments. It's a whole different story, But there's so many people trying to get in the game or in the game, and there's a huge mania around apartments right now. And to extent, it kind of scares me a little bit what's going to happen. Not to me personally, but just to other people that kind of, not have the background or people are taken for a ride, with syndications and stuff like that and all kinds of things. Not to say all syndications. Go ahead.
What do you see wrong with the strategies that a lot of people are implementing in the space right now?
Well, I think the whole get rich quick thing and you can just get the investors and people just put the money in and they're able to ride it for a certain period of time, but they're not looking at a lot of things. They're getting properties they're paying a very high, we're at the top of the market. So they're paying high for these properties. And I think one of the things that a lot of people are not taking into account is the whole, if you're buying Cclass properties right now, they're probably 50 years old.
Right.
When a property's 50 years old, you're going to have pipes that are going to go on it. You're going to have all kinds of major things outside of just the roof. Roof is simple. But you're going to have some internal things to deal with, and you're going to have to put a lot of money back into the properties just to keep afloat, keep things, going. And it's something that I'm seeing on a lot of my older buildings that I got to put money back in. And luckily I have a good grounding and a good base and foundation where I'm able to do that. But I'm like saying like, somebody new coming in, something like this could take somebody out or take somebody under. Because
the capital demands are heavy, I guess.
They're going to get heavy, especially increasing because, the older properties, they're going to require cash,
So would you recommend like the owner financing model for somebody trying to get in now, or is being well capitalized a much better strategy from your perspective?
I mean, if somebody can get owner financing, that's like the best thing. And depending on the interest rate, right?
Yeah. My struggle.
If you're starting off new and somebody owner's going to finance you. I mean, he was lucky that the owner was willing at that time when they got the first deal 40 years ago, the interest rates were at 15%. Banks weren't lending no money. And so luckily the mortgage broker assisted. My father didn't know anything.
Yeah.
He didn't know nothing about apartments. He didn't know anything about, he didn't have a clue. But he had the mortgage broker kind of said, well, this is how you can do it. He showed up, looked at the deal. He drove an hour to look at the deal. He had no clue what he was doing. But the mortgage broker explained to him, this is how you can do it. And he told him the whole concept. And the owner was willing so the mortgage broker had trust and faith in him. And for some reason, the owner had faith and trust in him. And if they didn't, he would have never got started.
Wow. So were you aware of any like rough patches when he executed against that owner financing strategy? Because usually when people go for owner financing, they don't actually have the capital to close the deal. And so if you don't have cash and something goes wrong with the property, you end up in this downward spiral.
So no, I mean, he luckily he was able to beg and borrow and get all the money for his down. Talk to his friends. He borrowed from left and right. I think he refinanced the house at the time. And when he had one partner that came in with like like 30 grand or something like that. And luckily he, after 6 months, wanted out. So he was, paid off after a year or something.
Nice.
And he was free and clear. So he went in with a partner too, and luckily the partner wanted out after 6 months. He wanted to go back to India or something. And it was good, because down the road, it would have been good for that guy's family probably if he stuck and stayed, but he pulled his money back out.
Yeah.
That was good for us. Then we don't have to like deal with anybody else.
Yeah. So now you own your own. And so, transitioning from, the start to the second generation and going to scale, right? I think the second generation is for scale. So when you decided that, you were going to come back and actually do this as a full-time role, what's your vision for it? And when you started and where you at now and where do you see yourself going?
When I started 20 years ago, I was more of a property manager. Mm-hmm. And then somewhere along the roads, somewhere along that time, I read the Kiyosaki book. And that's kind of like when the light went on of looking at it in a whole different light aspect of not just being a property manager, not just being a worker, but being an investor and being a business owner, operator, And that's when I started. That's when I started seeing, because I'm really like, I always had that entrepreneurial thing in me. I was, I studied the Carlton Sheets book, course, and all these different things. I've tried my hands in a whole different other business ventures,
Yeah.
and I failed forward many times, and this was always the base for me to come back to. So this allowed me the time to investigate other things, early on. But now I'm just fully devoted into this.
Right.
I'm not looking left and right anymore. I'm looking straight ahead.
Okay. And we were having a conversation about, the approach, and a lot of people are trying to get free and not do anything. And you're like head down, going full speed ahead on being the best in class operator in the country. So, at this juncture, why is that front of mind for you?
See, I don't know about the best owner operator in the country, but I'm gonna be the owner and operator that I am, and compete against myself, so where I can grow, right? There was a time for many years after I started becoming more of the investor type and started getting into that mentality. Then I started not being so much of an operator, but more so delegating and creating systems for people to work. And so I wanted to. I would try to create a system for me to get out so that I don't have to work, basically. So the system can work without me as much as possible. And I can just oversee the system. And I don't have to be so involved with the day-to-day. Fast forward now to today, ever since I did this last deal with the 828 doors, I'm fully involved. I'm working 5-6 days a week sometimes, and fully involved with the day-to-day. I have managers, I have maintenance techs, I have, over 50 employees, but I'm involved in the day-to-day aspects of growing the business because I don't feel like anybody else can be more careful with what I have, so to speak, if that's the word. I'm not saying that there's other people that are much smarter than me and I want to meet them too at some point. I just can't afford to pay them right now. I'd rather pay myself right now and figure it out. There was a time when I thought like I didn't really have training in this, in the whole property management thing. And I got a property management company to take over one of my buildings. 6 months later, I took it back from them.
Wow.
I realized that these guys didn't know what they was doing. Like, I know today companies are more sophisticated, but it was just my own self-doubt thinking that somebody else is going to be smarter and be able to do it better than me. And come to realize like, luckily I learned that lesson then, that now I would never give my property unless I invested outside my neighborhood. If I bought something in Florida or something like that, I would get a property management company. But as long as I'm investing here in my area, Pennsylvania, we're going to be hands-on. And even if I get something in Florida or somewhere else at some point, I'll get the management company initially, but I'm going to, in the back of my mind, I'm going to build my own team and take it over. Because why should somebody else get that? Like, why can't I get that money too? That's the great thing about being this, because you can be the investor and have your property management company too. You can get it from both ends. You make double the money, I think. If you're just an investor and you got the investor, but somebody else is making money, they're making 5%, 3%, whatever it is, off of your gross. They're making that every month. You can keep that. You can have your own property management company. You can just get the guys who, get the people who can be the managers, get the people that do the maintenance, and then you watch your numbers and watch your money. Nobody else is going to watch your money like you are.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the thing that you didn't enjoy, right? The problems, the headaches are now the things that put money in your pocket. So
much younger perspective. Now I know that problems create profits, and that trash can become treasure. That's my whole motto. I'm turning trash into treasure every day. I see people move out, the apartment's just trashed. To me, it's an opportunity to make some treasure,
So what type of properties do you buy?
We've always bought C-Class properties, and C-Class basically are properties that are in that are built in the 70s. No A and no B, but I try to take a C-Class or a C- property and try to make it like into a B- property at least, or B property. I can't make it an A property, that's for sure.
Why do you pick that asset, or why do you pick that class of property instead of the other two that you mentioned, Bs and As?
That's all I can afford. There's a lot of key reasons. C-Class is where the stability is there. It's the workforce housing. It's the people that are always going to need. It's a strong demographic. Whatever the market entails, recession, recovery, hyper supply, C-Class is always going to be in demand. So it's a strong, steady, and stable. Well, I don't see if you see the back of my shirt.
Yeah,
strong, steady, and stable type of deal. And I think C-Class wins. Whereas A-Class, once you have changes in the economy, people A-Class, if they can afford to, if they're paying $2,000 on your apartment and they can get a house and pay a mortgage for $1,500, what are they going to do? They're going to get the $15 house, but our properties is just there in that market where people are pretty, it's a strong asset class of producing income. There's strong stability there.
So at one point,
and one other thing that's key that I forgot, I'm sorry, is the whole value add thing, that I can buy C-Class that's been broken down, busted, mismanaged, distressed, and I can add value to it. I can bring up the community. I can improve the community, and I can double in value over a period of time. The A-Classes, they're going to take a longer time to double in value.
So the other thing that I thought is really unique about your approach is you guys do 15-year mortgages and you pay them off. Tell me more about that approach and why you execute that way.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that everybody wasn't doing that. I just thought that everybody was doing that, because that's just what we did, 15 years, and now I see, you don't have a strong cash flow when you have a 15-year mortgage, but in 15 years, you own the property free and clear. And then you can pull the money back out, and at our points where we are, the more cash flow we get, everybody's talking cash flow. And I get it. It's important to have cash flow, positive cash flow, but the more the cash flow we have there's the more taxes we're going to pay on that cash flow. And so if I can, pay down the mortgage, pay off the bank, get the bank off my butt, the bank build a good reputation with the bank, and the bank knows that I'm solid. I got a reputation of paying you back in 15 years all the time. Your money's guaranteed with me. The bank's going to give me more money, do more deals. And then when you have a property, right, after 15 years, you have a property that's paid off, then you can buy those other properties that are more risky and still be in the clear, because the other properties can finance or hold up the one property until it gets stabilized. Even in this deal right here that we just did with the 800, the property was so, it wasn't strong enough to carry a mortgage by itself. We needed to refinance another property that was paid off, that we had bought years back, for less than $5 million, that's now worth $25 million.
Hey guys, back in 2016, me and the team decided to formalize Dreamcatchers as an organization that can help people achieve their wildest dreams. If this is you, Please visit our website at dreamshouldbereal.com in order to find out the details of our services and how we can help you become a dream catcher. Talk to you soon.
Because it was, mismanaged. The person didn't, had the managers put the
Whoa. What? You bought it for what?
96. We bought a property for 293 units for about $5 million. 96. I don't know how many years that is for 14 and 20. So that's like 30 some years. No, 96, 24 years. So it was paid off for a couple years.
Yeah.
That's 293 units.
Yeah.
Now the valuation in that city, those properties are easily, selling at $100,000 a unit. So that's like really, I'm being conservative when I say 25 million. I could probably get more close to 30 million on the property if I sold today.
Yeah.
So we were able to take 15 million out of that deal and use that 15 million plus $5 million cash. We got 20 million, and then the 30 million is mortgaged on the property. And on this deal, because of the condition, we got it for a 25 year instead of a 15 year on this property. So we have more room to breathe.
So you talked about doubling, but I think 5 times 5 is 25 million. So
yeah, more than double there.
That's crazy, right? But that's the power of real estate.
Yeah,
because it's going to go up if you take care of it. And so you're taking such a
making it no more. Nobody's making real estate no more. We got what we got,
No.
And the population is constantly increasing.
Right.
So the value in the property is going to go over long term. It's always going to go up. In the short term, it's going to go up and down, but in the long term, it's always going to go up.
So since you're taking such a long-term approach to your hold strategy, how is that impacting your day-to-day operational decisions?
You got me there. My day-to-day is like, we just do what's practical. On a day-to-day basis, what do we need to do most? We don't have like a whole lot of spreadsheets and charts, and we ain't, working that way where we got this 5-year plan here. I just see things, what needs to be done, and I do it as accordingly. If I can do it, I do this now. And, this is the type of business that there's always something to do, and it will come to you. You don't have to go to it a lot of times. It'll come to you, and if I try to do everything, I'll get overwhelmed and I won't be able to afford to do it. So I got to pick and choose my battles. And a lot of times my battles pick me. I don't even pick them. That's what I'm trying to say.
So, you're so much more than just a real estate investor and owner. And so I don't know if you want to dive into some of the other really cool stuff you've done over the years, but I want to give you opportunity to talk about KarmaCast and all the other things you got going on if you like.
Yeah, so like about 2 months ago, we started a channel called Sharmas Karma on YouTube. Because the stuff we were dealing with, especially in the new deal, with like just they were shutting off the water on us or shutting off, the gas, or, they would give us all these shut off notices because the guy that we bought this property from wouldn't pay his bills. The phone lines were shut off in the high-rise building, and it was just the crazy situations we were dealing with. It was just so interesting and comical and surreal. I was like, I got to document this, So that's how the idea of Sharmas Karma came up. And I really didn't want to go on camera. I didn't really want to. I always lived a very private, secluded type of life, but just felt like it was a thing for me to do. And I just pushed past my fear and just started going on camera. And then we started a podcast called KarmaCast as well. We just have 3 episodes right now. I'm trying to get my father on this week to do the deal podcast, analyzing the deal, because that's what he's really good at. That's his specialty, of looking at a deal, analyzing it. And he's 80 years old. And so it'd be good to be able to memorialize, some of his ideas and concepts and that teaching. I can always go back and refer to it.
Nice.
Just kind of sharing the journey, documenting what we're doing and also sharing the journey and, entertaining, inspiring other people.
So if you had to, and I don't know if this is a fair question or not, but if you projected out 10 years, what does life look like for you guys in 10 years? Is there a real estate portfolio target, or is there a impact target? What does that look like for you?
10 years from now, hopefully my sons, I got 2 boys. They're 15 and 17. So 10 years from now, they will definitely be in the business, I'm sure. I've already talked to them. They're kind of already geared toward that way of like saying like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to do what dad does. So that's cool. If they wanted to do something else, that would be fine too. Cause I always felt like, I was forced into this and I wanted to do something else. And I had to go find what that something else was. And I was like a guy who was grown up, not still trying to figure out what am I going to do when I grow up. And it was in front of me the whole time, and I was doing it, but I was like, a part of me was always thinking I should be somewhere else with somebody else doing something else. And today I'm integrated fully into what I'm doing. So at least they have a clearer vision at an early age than I did for most of my life, because I was just an adventurer, explorer, and I had to like touch everything and taste everything and experience everything. And it was good, and so right now I have 2,000 units. My goal is to get 5,000. Am I gung ho and like all out? If I get 4,000, will I be unhappy or, no, not at all. Because I really live more so, even though I can set an intention to have 5,000, I really live with just the flow of life. And as you increase your vibration, as you increase your wisdom, as just grow your energy, things are going to come to you. Today my tea said, let it come to you. When you open the yogi tea, it's got a little saying on it. It said, let it come to you. And that's true, man. You build your energy, you build your base, it'll come to you. We've never been the type that we really had. Even this deal we just did, we didn't hunt for the deal. The deal came to us. Once you build your reputation and you've been in the business, the deals will come to you. You don't have to go hunting. In the beginning, you got to hunt. As you establish yourself, then it's going to come to you.
So you're a believer that, the spider always wins, right? You create the web and then it comes into the web and you're able to eat versus having to go hunt.
I never looked at it that way, but yeah, that's what you want to say. That's fine. But I'm a believer, like I said, you build your energy, you build your consciousness. And as you grow internally and externally, your vibration becomes a magnetism force, a force of magnetism. You magnetize to you what your greater good is.
So where'd you learn that concept? Where did that come from? It sounds like
over 20 years, I've been really into like the metaphysical thing, which is anything beyond physical is metaphysical. And I believe that we're not just a physical being, I really believe that we're a spiritual being, and that that's why a lot of my time was spent those years when I was like semi-retired and I had my business, but at the same time I was exploring, touching, tasting other things. I felt like I had a divine calling, and I felt like my purpose was to do more of a holistic thing, have a holistic practice, so to say. And today I'm able to combine the two because I know that there's no difference. There's no separation between business and spirituality. It's where the rubber meets the road, and I can merge the two worlds together. Real estate is very earthy. It's the earth, right? And spirituality is very like, the sky. So, bringing heaven to earth, kind of connecting the yin and the yang, or whatever you want to say, Father Sky, Mother Earth, bringing the two worlds together.
That's beautiful. It made me think about Gary Vee talking about the sky and the dirt. He talks about the sky and the dirt all the time, and being heady and having big ideas and big concepts, but being willing to get your hands dirty and actually do the work to make those things come to life. And so when I think about that, I think of you. So I could go a couple of different ways, and the metaphysical stuff's really interesting to me. And so did you do any studying on the metaphysical?
Yeah, I went, you see the movie The Secret?
Yeah.
I'm not a big proponent of the whole thing, but the one gentleman, African-American gentleman in The Secret, Dr. Michael Beckwith, we studied with him. Me and my brother both studied with him for 2 years. We did a practitioner training there around the millennium of 2000. Then after that, I came back, and that's when I got back in the apartment business.
Wow. So
prior to doing that study, you have to do like 4 years of study in the courses in order to be able to get into that course, that specific course at that time. And so it was a place called Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles. So I spent 2 years in Los Angeles doing the practitioner training. We graduated and we came back to Pennsylvania, got back into business. At that time, there was the new deal that we just acquired. And that's why I was just getting into property management and dealing with a high-rise building. And, I mean, I had done property management before we even went to California and other properties a long time ago before that.
So did you see a big shift in your world after you did that experience?
After I came, it took a long time for me to integrate that into my day-to-day. So a big part of me felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing more so, like as a profession, if that makes any sense. Because there are like people that are like counselors and spiritual counselors. And so I thought, and then I studied a lot of things called like transformational breathing. It was just like a breathing concept that would help you to clear your patterns in your subconscious mind through just breathing. Because the way you breathe is the way you do life. And just by, we could look at somebody's breath pattern. We could say like, oh, this person's not grounded, or this person's, their heart is closed because they might have had a dominating parent, stuff like that. So I spent a lot of years like getting into all those different types of studies. And like I said, I thought that was my path. So then I finally did retreats in that type of field. And like after I did two of them. I did one in California for breath practitioners, and then I did one here in Pennsylvania. And after I did those two, I was like, I am not doing this no more. I got my taste of this.
So were you a participant or you were running them?
Huh?
You were
I was running them and doing them.
Okay.
I'm doing everything, So I did two of them. I did one for breath practitioners and trainers in California, in Palm Springs. And then I went and did one. This was around 2007. And after I did those two, I said, I'm done. I thought that's what I wanted to do, is to be like this retreat person and do these retreats. But it's a lot of, man, it's tiring. I'm too lazy for all that work.
Come on, man. I mean, you're making me think about
I wasn't really into the marketing thing at that time. I have a hard time marketing spirituality and those type of things at that time. And I couldn't, both retreats were very successful. I just didn't feel like I'm the type of guy, once I get the full taste of it, I can see this is what I want to do. I don't want to do it, pursue it further. And I can see that this is just not what. So I'm got it out my system. They say, you get it out of your system, you go for it, you get it out your system. I got that stuff out of my system. And I still will, who knows how it'll come, in what ways it'll come back, but I'm still able to use it on myself,
right?
Or help somebody on the side here and there if they're open to it. If I feel, you have a toolbox and you have to use different tools for different situations with different people. And sometimes I'm able to use that, it's a part of my makeup, but it's not something I needed to pursue and to become professional with. I have a professional business. So that's what I meant. Like I was like separated, you know what I mean? I had to bring the two together because I thought like I should be over there, speaking and building this whole career, doing this holistic kind of stuff. And here you got apartments and dealing with tenants and, you know what I mean? Collecting the rent. This guy didn't pay the rent again. God, man, I'm tired of these deadbeats, people trashing apartments and all that stuff. It's not an easy business, but
at all. There's nothing easy about
the benefits that, if you got the grit and if you're ready to go through the school of hard knocks and you got that tenacity, you got that perseverance, and you got that head on you got to have a good business head. It's just practical. It's common sense stuff. It's not rocket science. But, we live in an age where even common sense is uncommon.
Woo. Common sense is uncommon. I like it. So you've agreed to come down and hang out with us for the Mid-Atlantic Multifamily Investing.
First multifamily conference, man.
The first one.
Yes.
This is going to be awesome. We're going to have you do a keynote and spend some time with the VIPs. Why'd you agree to come? And I mean, why ours? Why is this the first one? There's plenty of other ones out there.
You and me connected, I think we're like brothers from other mothers, and like we're soul brothers. And, I love to speak. I feel like I have that's one thing that I have done in my life, that in those years I've been able to speak to audiences, go to different conferences around the country. And that's one of the gifts I think I have, is to communicate and speak, and more so in front of an audience. This is my second time doing this on a computer thing with you, but feeling the energy of the audience and really be able to provide value and give inspiration to an audience is one of my most favorite things I like to do. So when you said that if I could speak, I come. Yeah, I'm there. I'm there, man. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna do my best job. I'm starting to work on it already. It's, and it works on me when I get an opportunity to speak for that period of time, the 2 months or whatever month. It's going to be just working in me, and like it's just going to affect and impact different areas of my life. It's going to help me to raise up higher, and yeah, it doesn't. You don't just show up and speak. It's like there's a whole process that goes into it, of preparing yourself to be that channel, to be that vessel.
Love it. So to wrap this show, I usually ask 2 questions. The first one is, what gift are you giving the world?
Well, like I said, I think one of the gifts I have is my communication. Just being myself. First and foremost, I learned that the greatest service. I spoke at one conference one time. It was about world service was the topic. And when I was preparing for it, what I came to realize that the greatest service you can give the world is just to be who you are, be yourself. It sounds so simple, but to me, it's just so true. And it's one of the hardest things to do. Bruce Lee in an interview said, they asked him, what's the hardest thing or something like this? The hardest thing in life is to honestly express who you are. And I didn't understand what he was saying. Years later, when I started to do that talk, and that's when that answer came, that the greatest way to serve the world is just to be who you are. Let who you are, shine.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And the last question is, what is the one thing you want people to take away from this conversation if they don't get anything else?
Obviously be yourself, find your own groove. Sometimes sometimes something can be right in front of you and you don't see it. And you're looking left and right, but eventually you got to see what's in front of you, see what's most practical. And one of the things that kind of had me messed up for a long time is they said, you got to follow your passion. You got to follow your passion. How about putting your passion into what's in front of you? Because I am looking left and right, trying to follow and find, but it was right there. And now I'm just putting my passion in what's in front of me, no matter what that is. Pour your passion into what's in front of you.
Woo!
And you'll go from somebody who's seeking to somebody who's finding.
Yeah. Guys, if you made it to this part of the podcast, you obviously love what we've shared. So do us a favor, share it with somebody, give us a written review. And until the next time, we'll talk to you soon. Mr. Sharma, thank you again, sir.
Thank you, brother. My pleasure.
Thank you for joining the tribe today. We would love to hear from you. Please don't forget to rate, like, and share. Perhaps someone you know could benefit from what we've discussed. Until the next time, remember that your dreams should be real.